What poor people's food was ruined because of rich people?
Cheeseburgers. A burger and fries shouldn't cost nearly $20. P. Terry's can still get you a cheeseburger combo slightly under $10. It's a Texas chain, but it's my go-to for a basic cheeseburger. I used to be able to get Whataburger specialty burger combos for under $10, but now they're up to about $15. I haven't had one in a while because of it.
Ugh, yes. Went to a Five Guys. My boyfriend and I got a meal the other day for $34. We only got 2 drinks, a small fries, a baby cheeseburger, and a regular cheeseburger.
I hate that you have to order fries separately in so many restaurants now. Obviously, I'm not talking about fast food. That's always been the case. Street tacos. They used to be cheap and perfect. Now it's $6 per taco with artisanal vibes. I feel like these got ruined more by inflation than by rich people. My local taco trucks are still like $3 to $4 per taco, which, relative to everything else, still makes them a bargain. But prices went up because all the basic ingredients went up too. It's even sadder when you find out they're even expensive in Mexico now. I hear you that there are many pricey artisanal taco places now. At least where I am, there's still the cheap old school places as an option too. Ramps. They can't be cultivated, but were a seasonal celebratory food in Appalachia until they became a trendy upscale food. Now they're collected and sold to restaurants. Interesting. I didn't know they were trendy. I always assumed they were all over. We used to pull bunches out of the ground, wash them in the creek, and start snacking. Everything. Any cultural cheap food that was cooked to survive is now on your local new trendy fusion restaurants menu with a markup of $30 or more. Po' boys, it's in the name. Trying to find one in my area that's worth half a damn under $20 is a task. Crawfish. Cajuns ate them for survival because we were dirt poor. Now they've become prohibitively expensive for poor people. When I was a kid, I remember my parents balking at $4 to $5 a pound for raw, and we lived on the Third Coast. Now I live in Denver, and raw goes for $15 to $18 a pound. Aren't oysters like this too? They were dirt cheap survival protein on the East Coast of the US, at least, and now they're a delicacy. Same deal with blue crabs on the eastern shore of Maryland. When I was growing up, that was the cheapest way to feed an entire extended family in the summer. Andean people have been priced out of their traditional staple crop because quinoa is a trendy superfood. I think this was proven to be a myth. The rise in quinoa prices was beneficial to Peruvian farmers, and local consumption of quinoa did not decrease. It's an attractive talking point, but not the truth. Edit. Typo. That's not really true, though, and especially not for the farmers. The farmers have become wealthier due to the higher demand for quinoa. Thankfully, U.S. domestic production of quinoa has increased to meet demand and is now less damaging to the indigenous people who consume it. Brisket, a dirt cheap shitty cut of meat that's only good when it's prepared a couple ways, but the fucking artisan barbecue and taco joints got a hold of it, and now everybody has a brisket thing on their menu, and you can't find a decent size one for less than $80. Yeah, it's something Jews always had for cheap during the holidays. I bought one for Hanukkah last week, and it was $88. I miss the H-E-B 4th of July 50 cents per pound sales. We'd get enough brisket to last the whole year. Almost. I blame Traeger. You used to have to know what you were doing to make good brisket. Now you can just have your phone do it for you. So far, everyone is mentioning meat products, but I'm here to complain about cauliflower. It's still relatively cheap compared to meat, but it has definitely doubled or tripled in price since the low-carb cauliflower rice trend became a thing. I love snacking on it raw and like to use it as a filler to stretch meat in curries or similar dishes, or just replace the meat altogether. Yes, this! My boyfriend's favorite dish is gobi Manchurian, and I can hardly make it anymore because it just isn't feasible. I live in a food desert in the southeastern United States. It's $8.99 a head at the only grocery store in town. Otherwise, you have to drive over half an hour if you want to get to a Walmart and pay slightly less. Lobster. It was literally fed to prisoners, but as soon as industries realized people were willing to pay a premium for sea cockroaches, which is what they called them, they began overfishing. Combined with pollution and climate change, this has increased the scarcity of lobster, making them a luxury food.
It became a delicacy way before overfishing and climate change came into play. The idea that we started overfishing something that was viewed as prisoner food doesn't even make sense. You completely skipped the part that turned it into a premium product. Once we discovered that dunking it in melted butter made it significantly more palatable, people with money stopped viewing it as peasant food and bid it up. But as Jason Pargin once commented, what doesn't taste better when it's covered in melted butter? Then we developed supply chains that allowed it to be transported inland, away from just the coastal areas where it was caught, which increased demand even more. And then, a long time after all of that, overfishing and habitat destruction created more upward pricing pressure.
My grandfather lived in a poor coastal community in the 1930s. He used to tell us that they would eat the lobster but then bury the shells so no one would find out.
Reading about the history of lobster being fed to prisoners is wild. Prisoners won a lawsuit, and then the prisons could only serve it 3 times a week. Evidently, 5 days a week was ruled inhumane conditions.
Besides oxtail, marrow bones. My grandmother used to get this for free from the butcher, cook them in soup, then we'd suck the marrow out and smear it on toast. Honestly, it's delicious. Now all these rich people think they need bone broth, so suddenly beef marrow bones are the price of steak.
Not something I would eat, but I see chicken feet going for $1.99 a pound. That's what I pay for split chicken breast.
Is bone marrow really that pricey? All the farms around me will throw in a bunch of extra bones and offal for free with your beef, as most people don't care to have the bones or offal.
Bacon, Brussels sprouts, chicken wings, hot dogs, corn, every single cheap cut of beef, every single cheap fish, cheeseburgers, hamburger meat in general, small potatoes, lunch meat, ramen.
Not a specific food in general, but I have a gripe with food trucks. They used to be a cheap way to get food from a local, but now everything is super expensive and artisanal. A few years ago, pre-pandemic, some friends invited me to a food truck festival. It had been a few years since I had gotten food from a food truck, so I brought $40 thinking I'd be able to sample food from tons of vendors. A taco here, an empanada there, a slider or two, and so on. I about lost my mind when I saw a corn dog for $13, and I seemed to be the only one in my group that was shocked by the prices.
6 years ago, I was newly pregnant and in a place with a bad cold snap. Power was out in places, and stores were closed. God bless those Mexican guys that kept their taco truck open every day. It was so cold. And now this is ruined for a number of reasons.
Going to a food truck event or a lot specifically for food trucks is asking to get scammed. You have to look for them literally on the street or in some random parking lot. Our HR has food trucks come to our job several times a week because the factory's in the boonies and we can't leave for food. The prices have gone from $10 a plate to $15 or $20.
Barbecue. The whole point of low and slow was that tough cuts of meat needed a long time to get tender. Now, a pulled pork sandwich with no sides will bring you $15.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.